Welcome to the Spiritualpreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Christian, aka Love Pixel. And in each episode, we sit down with spiritual entrepreneurs sharing their knowledge, wisdom, and tools on their path to authentic success. Let's dive in. What's up, beautiful people? This is Christian from the Successful Spiritualpreneur Podcast. And today I'm very excited to have Julia Gordon-Bramer on the show. And you can imagine her as being a cross between Greg Braden and Jen Sincero. So she's kind of like a blend who brings spirituality and also a certain sass to the table. And Julia has been a professional tarot card reader for over 45 years, so it's a very long time. She knows so many things about tarot. And apart from that, she's also an author, scholar, and poet. She has toured the United States, the UK, Dubai in the past couple of years, talking about tarot and promoting her recent books, which are Tarot Life Lessons and the Occult Sylvia Plath, which Sylvia Plath, some of you might know, she's a very famous poet. And Julia also has appeared on MTV, Nick at Nite, Gaia, Gaia's Network, and Beyond Belief, Coast to Coast AM, as well as the Next Level Soul podcast. Welcome to the show, Julia.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Christian. And just a note of correction. I didn't get to Dubai. That's forthcoming, but not yet.
Okay, beautiful. So welcome to the show. And the first question I would love to ask is, what is your definition of a successful spiritualpreneur?
Yeah, I love that term, spiritualpreneur, by the way. I think it's having, for me, it's having the freedom to have my own schedule, to be my own boss, to plan my own day, to make enough money to live comfortably and to be happy. You know, that's it, right? For me, anyway.
I love that. And I think currently it's a very interesting time because, technology is evolving so fast and AI, all the things. I think it's very interesting to see that a lot of people will be invited and pushed more into exploring who am I and what do I actually want to do with my life, because there will be so many new opportunities and pathways for people opening up in the coming years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. And I have not used AI as far as with outside of getting interview questions for a podcast that I did. But my tarot card readings are through me. I know some people do use AI for tarot readings even. As I said, or as you said in my introduction, I've been reading for most of my life. It's actually over 46 years now. And such I've never had that that need to computerize it. I would like to consider AI for things like video editing and some of the tasks that I'm less equipped to do and don't enjoy quite as much as that personal connection with reading for people.
And from your perspective, since you have such a deep insight of tarot and work with it for such a long time, what would you say makes it so special that we might not know because we haven't explored it as much as you did? Like, what makes tarot so special?
Yeah, it's really a tool for personal growth. It's more about personal growth than it is fortune telling. People do oftentimes ask me, can you see in the cards, is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? When am I going to meet my love? Things like that. And that's the fortune telling aspect. But I compare it to like dream analysis. So in the same way that our dreams are full of symbols and information for us, so are the cards. So the cards all have these different pictures that show us what we're going through, what we, the direction of our energies if we keep doing things the way we're doing. I believe we all have this higher knowledge of where our energy's going. We all know that if we, maybe we act dishonestly, that's probably going to come back to bite us later, or, something like that. And so the tarot will call it out. it will reveal, it'll give you a big heads up sometimes, and it gives you the opportunity to change your energies. So I think it's a wonderful tool. I think people are really mistaken when they say to me, don't tell me anything bad, because as I said, it's a heads up, it's an opportunity for them to turn that around. Yeah, not everybody wants to be conscious.
Yeah, I love that. And I think with that being said, I think tarot is an incredible tool for also using it in business. Like I've used it many times to make business decisions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have regular clients. I have one after you today who he's an investor. He's always having me look at his prospects. I always say it is a more personal thing, so I can read it as a company may affect him, but I wouldn't read, something like, well, back in the election, who was going to be the next president. That is an energy that is necessarily going to personally affect us. It could, I suppose, and if it does, it may show up in the cards. But those big world questions are not what I want to look at in tarot. I want to make it more particular to you.
Beautiful. I love that. And I think it's very fitting because, our lives are very unique. So, with that being said, like, how did you, I would say, make tarot a business, a profession? Like, what are the
Yeah.
kinds of, um, yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so I never set out to be a professional tarot card reader. It evolved, and it was kind of, I think, fate kind of decided it for me. For many years, and I'm talking decades, it was just a hobby. It was a fun thing I did for my friends and my family. And when I went to graduate school in 2007, that was maybe the turning point, because I would bring my cards with me to class, and I'd read for my friends, and they would say, "Oh, will you come read for my part at my party, or will you do my wedding reception, or will you do my graduation?" And these events started to happen, or even, I'm pretty down, and I could use your consult, and it started to take a lot of my time, and I had to value my time, and I had other things going on, and I was a working mom, and so I had to start charging. And so for a time, I graduated, got my MFA in creative writing, and went on to teach on the graduate level in Lindenwood University. And the whole time I was just sort of doing tarot just as a little sideline gig, but it began to grow and grow and grow. And then it came to the point that I was actually making a better living as a tarot card reader than a teacher, which isn't hard. If anyone has any teaching experience, they know exactly what I'm talking about. And and I had to cut some classes back, and I didn't quit teaching instantly. I had a conversation with my husband, and I went from full time to part time, and then I went to just teaching one class, and then it just wasn't worth it, and I completely surrendered to my tarot career, which has been wonderful. All I could ever want, and at the same time, I was really working on my scholarship of the poet Sylvia Plath, and I had published 3 books in that time, and I was working on this book, the Occult Sylvia Plath, that came out last year. And I really think that, from a more divine orchestration, being a tarot card reader enabled me to have the freedom to pursue that Plath scholarship, to make regular trips to Bloomington, Indiana, where her archives were, and sit and read all her books and letters and calendars and journals and everything for days. And so I was, the freedom of working for myself as a tarot card reader has been such a blessing with my other passion of scholarship. And I think, maybe Sylvia pulled the strings so I could do this for her, or maybe, it's just the higher purpose that I was meant to do both. And it's really been a complementary career, and very nurturing to me. And I never planned it. That's the beautiful thing. I think when we know we're on path, it truly does unfold. We so often try to force things. We so often try to make things happen exactly when we want. And Lord knows I've been tested and had a lot of challenges. And that last book I held up, The Occult Sylvia Plath, that's 15 years in the making. And those 15 years, I was trying to publish it the whole time. And what happened was I kept improving and revising, and it kept getting better and better, and I would find new things and new things and new things again. And so we can't always, we can have goals and we can have direction, but sometimes there's definitely a higher order, and I had a lot of beautiful synchronicities that brought that book to publication, which I could talk about if you'd like. And some things happened in the world that showed me that when I was trying to force it, it wasn't ready for world reasons. So some things had to come into alignment to kind of pave the way for this book, and it happened outside of what I was trying to happen. So if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah, I love that. And I think like very many some listeners might not know who Sylvia Plath is, so maybe you want to just briefly explain who she was
Yeah.
and how your book shines a different light on her life.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sylvia Plath was a very famous writer and poet. She died the year I was born in 1963. And she is probably, unfortunately, best known for her suicide and her drama. In the early 2000s, Gwyneth Paltrow and Daniel Craig starred as Sylvia Plath and her husband Ted Hughes, and they focused on the tumultuous marriage and Plath's depression and ultimately her suicide. And that's what everybody knows. They were very beautiful, they were very talented, they were very successful, but people only know Plath for her drama, not her genius. And I really feel like one of my purposes to be here on this planet at all is to show her genius. I mean, she was what she could do with words was truly a magic spell. And I show, going back to my very first book, Fixed Stars Govern a Life, Decoding Sylvia Plath. That's now out of print, but I do sell the PDF. It came out from Stephen F. Austin State University Press back in 2014. And I take her poems in Ariel apart, and I show that each poem has like six clear different meanings, that she could make one set of words mean six different things, related. But she was truly a mystic. She had an active practice in mysticism. She had tarot cards on her desk table. On the cover here, this is her photographed with a crystal ball. That's actually her in the picture from the 1950s. And she had regular Ouija board sessions with her husband, and she wrote about astrology and astronomy, and mythology was a passion. Alchemy was in there. She was an active mystic. Bibliomancy. Yeah, it goes on and on.
Wow, that's beautiful. I love that. That's incredible. And how would you say, um like why Sylvia Plath and tarot? Like not those two are not necessarily connected, but in your life they are. Like why do you have such a strong emphasis on both of these?
Well, when I was in graduate school, I was looking for a semester end project. And I had noticed, and I talked to my professor about this, Dr. Stephen Schreiner. I said, there's a lot of tarot imagery in Plath's aerial poems. And I pulled him aside and I showed him, look, here's the magician, and here's the empress, and here's the queen of swords, and blah, blah, blah. And he looked at me and he said, I don't know what you're talking about. He said, nobody's ever done it. I couldn't find anything about it, and he'd never heard anything about it, and he knows Plath. So he said, make that your semester end project. And so what became my semester end project in 2007 turned into my life's work. So what I found was that Plath was operating on so many levels, and she and her husband Ted Hughes, they knew about Kabbalah, they knew of alchemy, and they had basically structured their work, both of them. I believe that Ted Hughes taught her a great deal about the occult and mysticism, and she was sort of the magician's apprentice, and she learned and possibly got better than him. I mean, that's up for debate because Ted Hughes is hugely famous and very successful. He was the poet laureate in England for a long time, and there's no insulting his talent either. But what Plath did, and I guess just the tragedy of people not realizing it, not realizing the expansiveness of her genius, and that she was so much more than just this confessional poet, which is how she's known, just kind of gloom and doom and depression and suicide. And oh my gosh, she was saying so much more than all of that. And that was in there too, no doubt. I mean, it was part of her life experience. I would never deny that. But yeah, people have just missed so much about her. So that's my passion. And if I'm here to do anything, sometimes I feel like a little
Yeah.
bit like John the Baptist, like prepare ye the way, pay attention, look what this person has achieved.
Hmm. Yeah, it's really wonderful. I think there's a lot of sides of Sylvia Plath, not that I know her, but like from what you've said, is that many there's more shadows than lights, and that's not negative, but it's just like there's so
Mhm.
many ways that she hasn't been explored and
Correct.
highlighted. You know, so
Correct.
I think your book is such a great way to explore different sides of her.
Yeah.
Um, and in your other book, the Tarot Life
There
Lessons,
are life
like
lessons. Yeah.
what are some like yeah, what are some of the most profound life lessons that the cards have taught you personally?
Yeah, well, so the book came from my journals. My working title was The Tarot Diaries, and I would have loved to have kept that because it truly is my diary entries, and so it's like you're in my head, you're sitting with me as I'm doing some of these readings, and the things how I read. I talk about the process. I talk about what intuition feels like and how I respond and how imperfect I am, and sometimes somebody will bait me or trigger me. All of these things have come up. um, there are a lot of life lessons, and I have improved and grown along with my clients. And so I think that was part of what I was trying to teach. So, you know, the very first story is my own, and it aligns with the Fool card. Each story aligns with a major arcana card in the tarot. And so the Fool card, my own, is the story of how I kind of wandered into tarot, not ever planning that this would be my life calling and my career. The the story for card number one, the magician, is about a con artist who took a client of mine, an elderly widow, for everything she had. Took all her money, and did it in this deceitful way. Met her through Facebook and did it, under the pretense of falling in love with her. And she was lonely, and she was generous and sweet, and it was killing me. And I was trying to warn her, and I saw it happening, and I did everything I could. Sometimes us tarot card readers, we get attached to our people, and it was very sad. I was in a spot where I could not help her. I have I couldn't, aside from like physically going and restraining her, and that wasn't going to happen. Um, I have stories of addicts. Some addicts got help. Some addicts can't be helped. There was a terrible gambling addiction story. There's drug addiction stories. There's a murder that was revealed in the cards, and there's a manslaughter that was hidden by somebody that showed up in the cards. Um, all kinds of fascinating things that, these are the stories that blew my mind, and I had to go home and write about them. And as a creative writer, I wanted the details. I wanted to remember which cards I turned over and how the people responded, and how they looked. There's one weird story of a woman who started impersonating me. That was kind of an odd one. So yeah, there's many life lessons. I mean, there's 22 major arcana cards, so basically 22 stories. Although a couple of them I doubled up. A couple of them have a few layers to it, so you could even say like 24 or 26 stories in there. And I'm working on a sequel right now, so we'll see what becomes of that.
Beautiful. I love that. And what would you say, like, after such a long time like teaching and reading and, sharing tarot, basically, is like, what keeps you passionate about tarot? Like, what is it that keeps you,
Yeah,
like
I never
on it,
get bored
hooked
of
in a
it.
way?
Right. I don't ever get bored of it. It continues to fascinate me when I put cards down for a total stranger and they go, "Oh my God," and they explain what I've just revealed. Like I don't know your stuff. I don't know your background. And it's just an incredible thing to witness when I hit time after time after time, sometimes with very specific details, and can be very moving, very emotional. I've had people tell me they get more out of a tarot card reading with me than they did a year of therapy. And I don't take responsibility for that. I call that spirit, and I think that they were called to me, they're attracted to me for a reason, because they're ready to hear it, basically. And so I love helping people. I love personal connection. I think I'm made to go deep. I'm made to be intense with people, and I want to live this life with just a knowledge and a passion and connection. And tarot allows me to do that. And so most of my regular clients I do regard as friends, and maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing. But how can you read for somebody without loving them, right? Because I ask spirit to open my heart and make
Mm.
that connection, and there is love. And and it's different kinds of love. Yeah, obviously I don't want to cross any personal boundaries or anything like that. But it's a profession like no other, and I have maybe a little more leeway than, say, a counselor or a life coach, because I do have the spiritual aspect. And a lot of people call me their counselor or life
Mm.
coach, which I find a little amusing. And I do say, I'm not trained in that. Like, please know that I do not have a certification. I'm not, uh, I'm still, for all intents and purposes, just, fun, entertainment maybe. But as I said, personal growth. And I want it to be meaningful. And I want
Mm.
people to come away with tools. And that's maybe where my background comes in. I've studied Buddhism, I've studied the Tao. I'm a teacher and student both of A Course in Miracles. I study Kabbalah, which is a never-ending study. I have Christian roots in the Episcopal Church. I have a very broad spiritual background, and I think all of that fits into my tarot card readings. And so when I pull a card, sometimes there may be, kind of a Buddhist, cone, or a just some piece of wisdom that I've picked up, or direction from Kabbalah or the Bible,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
I incorporate all of that.
Beautiful. I love that. Yeah, it's funny that you say that because um, my wife, she's actually a teacher of A Course in Miracles, and yeah, it's something that I've studied as well, and
Wonderful.
yeah, it's interesting. Like we put everything that who we are into the cards and into what we do and who we are,
Right.
and yeah, I was going to ask you if you feel inspired to do a little reading.
I'd be happy to. Yeah, to read for you right now.
Yeah, I think that'd be super fun.
Okay, okay. Is there something you'd like me to focus on, or just a sort of in general thing?
Yeah. So here's the situation. I'm gonna say it for all the listeners so they know what's going on.
Okay.
Um, so in the recent couple of months, like I've been feeling drawn more to like help my wife in her business because I obviously have the agency and I have the tea brand, but also and of course I'm always like passively helping my wife. So I'm looking into stepping a little bit more into an active role within her universe in terms of business, and yeah, just wondering what the cards are wanting to reveal,
Okay.
whether that's a good idea or not so good idea.
Okay. So you're just working with your wife. That's the focus here. And we'll see what we see.
Mhm.
All right. So I did what I would call a horseshoe spread here. And our initial energy is the strength card. And this is beautiful. And she tames the beast. And, this could be the strength of your love for your wife, your strength in wanting to support her. All beautiful there. I am seeing you kind of launching out with some hard work here. Now this is the assembly line, and he keeps a little for himself under the bench there. So it's just saying you're churning it out. You're helping him with it now, helping her with it. Sorry. Now the Fool in reverse is our next card, and this is around 3 months. And I do believe, Christian, that you're saying, I'm not sure this is my direction, or that you might feel sometimes that you're doing it differently, or even that you did it badly. Occasionally the Fool in reverse is a little bit of a self-attack, like, oh, I screwed up, something like that. Now the top card here is the World in reverse. And you know what I think? So the World card is not a bad card, right side up, which is this way, or upside down, which is what I mean by in reverse. But it isn't your total self-actualization. And I think that's the difference. It may be your wife's. And so it could be, wonderful. You're supporting her, you love her, all good. But as your career, I'm not so sure. Now, what I do see is around 6 months, I have King of Pentacles. This is you feeling on top of things in whatever you're doing. Pentacles are the gold coin, money and career. But a little further than that, I have the Four of Wands in reverse. So I think you're launching her and then you're going on to do something else. And so this time next year, we have a whole new beginning. Now, Ace of Swords is a card that I read for an entrepreneur because aces are new beginnings and swords are about striking out. So it's the perfect entrepreneurial card, or spiritualpreneur card in your case. And so I would say you're launching her, you're building her, but it'll be less than a year, and then you're on to your thing. So that's how a reading
Mm,
might go.
beautiful. I love that. Yeah, and just to give a little bit more context to the reading for everyone who's listening, it's very interesting the first card, the strength card, because that's like our dynamic. Like I am the one who just like push and like very like a lot and intense, like I
Uh-huh,
work in
uh-huh.
kind of like bursts, right? And she's always like the one that kind of like calms it down, and because sometimes you work like the masculine just works too much in one direction. Just chill,
Yeah.
like do a little bit and then cool down a little bit, right? So that
Uh-huh.
the strength card, it's a very common dynamic between the two.
Yeah.
And then the assembly line makes total sense. I can totally see myself in that.
Hmm.
Um, so that's beautiful. And then the fool, I think I agree, right? Like I think I'm happy to help her and launch her and give her more umph and support, but it
Hmm.
won't be long term fulfilling, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
It's
totally agree. In the sense, I have to live my own authentic self at some
yeah.
point.
Yeah. So that's an example of a reading. And I can do any subjects. Sometimes
I
I do
love that.
money or health or love, of course. The love is probably the most popular reading. But yeah, I can look at lots of relationships, and if you're having problems with someone, if someone's estranged from you, we can go into that and try to understand what they're thinking or what you can do. It's yeah, it can be very helpful.
Yeah, I love how tarot brings out those subtleties, and especially if people look at them and they're like, ah, okay, now I see why or certain things.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that about tarot. Thank you so much for that reading, and we're coming towards the end of the show, but I would love to ask you a couple more questions about what you see as your legacy. Like, what do you want to leave behind after you leave this physical plane?
Yeah, I mean, certainly my Sylvia Plath work. I want that to be recognized. I want people to understand what a complex, brilliant woman she was, way beyond the drama, way beyond just expressing, the darkness and the suicide. Uh, her real brilliance. I'm a creative writer, and so I'd love to leave my own creative writing. I'm currently looking at getting a memoir published of the years I ran a music magazine as a single mother in the 1990s, and that's been a project that I've had finished for literally decades, and I'm just ready to get it published. I also want to get a collection of my poems published, and I have yet to do that. I've published a lot of individual poems, but no books. So those are important writing dreams for me. But maybe most important, I think I've been called here in these hard times, to be love and light in darkness, and I want to be remembered for that, and I want others to be lifted by that, and maybe together we truly can bring about some positive change in this world. So those are the most important things for me.
Beautiful. I love that. Yeah, I think a lot of people are, you know, maybe still going through some, you know, dark times, but I feel definitely if you are in the spiritual world, maybe it's a bubble, but I think definitely like the world is getting better. Like people are waking up. Like there's more and more people who are just not,
That's true. That's true.
uh, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and that's
exactly,
and
who are
that's
just,
inspiring.
like,
Hmm.
yeah, exactly. We all wake up one by one.
Yeah,
Well, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom and your heart. It's been an honor to have you on.
thank you.
And yeah,
Thanks. And if anyone would like to
thank you,
reach me,
Julia.
they can just look up Julia Gordon-Bramer. Gordon is Gordon. Bramer is B as in boy, RAM as in Mary, ER. And juliagordonbramer.com, and they can email me. They can find my phone number and call or text me. And I'm on WhatsApp. I do readings all around the world. I'm on Zoom, of course, and real easy to get a reading by phone, by video, even email. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. We'll put all the links in the description as well as the links to all your books.
Thank you so much, Christian. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Julia.